expect in the next few decades, what to expect in the next 6 months with regards to safety, to innovation. So without much more delay, I'm just going to jump in with the theme of my presentation, which is what are the changes to the aviation industry after COVID, the pros and the cons, right? The good and the bad. Social distancing for passengers on flights, right? Right now, Emirates, Japan Airlines, and American Airlines are starting to block out seats, pre-allocate seats. So what are the good and bad of social distancing for passengers on flights, right? As Mr. Rene mentioned earlier, the modifications sub-industry are going to have quite a lot of new work trying to design new aircraft cabins. So this is something to keep an eye on. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go on to the next one because we don't have that much time, of course. It should be very well understood that the Asia Pacific region was the region for aviation in terms of travel, in terms of maintenance, in terms of pure numbers prior to COVID. So it's quite sad to see what's happening, but right. Let's talk about, let's just quickly think about what's the positive side, right? Okay, this is an opportunity to restructure the industry to be COVID-proof, and virus-proof, and disaster-proof. By designing new business models, and for more research to go into how to make the aviation industry disaster-proof, right? This is going to be a new era. Okay, this is something to think about. So I don't think people should be spending their days crying about how the Asia Pacific region has lost so much. Although there is much to be sad about, there's much to look forward to in the future. Right? Airlines could lose up to more than $84 billion in 2020. And of course, as Mr. Rene mentioned earlier from Singapore Airlines, we have lost a lot of aviation activity worldwide, right, which is catastrophic, right? There's nothing else to say about that in terms of negative viewpoints, but this is a very important time for the case of automation, right? The idea of automating jobs, right? We very well know that pilots, they need to keep an eye on their futures, because in the next 20 to 30 years, there will be a requirement for pilots, but so much of what a pilot does will be automated. So much of what air traffic control does will be automated, right? So streamlining of processes, but I can almost certainly guarantee you there will not be a drop in engineer numbers, because you need engineers to maintain everything. The likelihood of AI maintaining itself at the moment is quite unlikely, because it will be quite challenging to deploy robots to try and fix an aircraft. But I'm not saying that this won't happen maybe in the next 30 years to 40 years, but at least in the next 2 decades, you will be seeing an increased need for engineers and technicians. Right, we all love having a nice aircraft, a nice in-flight meal. Sri Lankan Airlines has got great in-flight food. Singapore Airlines has got great in-flight food. That might be changing, at least for a temporary time, where airlines might be serving cold meals. Why? Because they're easier to make, easier to maintain, right? But of course, this will affect the prestige factor for a lot of airlines, and the catering industry will have to restructure. And of course, passengers won't be very happy eating cold meals if this was to happen. But the good thing is that, this would make things much cleaner, much easier to look after. So this is something worth considering. New hygiene routines, right? So there are, so that you can see in the thumbnail picture that those are actually UV, ultraviolet robots who can go around and sterilize people, objects. So that's an example of a technology that can be seen at airports maybe in the near future. So there's good industry building up for that, for entrepreneurs, for innovators, and as well as contact tracing, which is used a lot in countries like Thailand and Singapore. Contactless payments. So, for example, I've got a Samsung phone. Samsung phone has the ability to use contactless payments for Visa and MasterCard, so that you don't have to give someone your card, so they can swipe your card. You can just tap your own phone, and of course masks and ventilators. So further, but obviously the bad side of this is that airports and airlines will have to invest in all this new tech, which is going to be quite expensive. But on the good side, passengers will feel safer, they'll be cleaner and healthier, right? And of course, new industries will start to pop up from this. Now, this is something quite important especially for you, younger audience. Government aid, funding, and subsidies for the aviation industry are now needed, but they must be handled very carefully, right? So it's very good that a lot of governments are giving money to the aviation industry, but what are the good and bad sides? So the bad side is that government agencies are prone to corruption. We all know this. This is no secret. Prone to fraud, bribery, and also incompetence, right? So a lot of funding can be lost, stolen, or mishandled, right? So government funding for aviation has to be very transparent and handled carefully. But the good side, of course, is that airlines and airports can be rescued, right, and kept afloat. So there's a good and bad, but it requires a lot of good governance, right? This is something for the IT people to consider. Computer flight bookings globally need to have new algorithms to handle the extremely low bookings, booking cheats, and last-minute bookings. So right now, something unique has happened where the flights are so low, the number of flights are so low that a lot of booking algorithms and booking computers have never seen these numbers. So they have never tried to process these kind of numbers, and some systems are starting to crash, right? They've actually given incorrect figures for pricing, right? This is because such a thing as COVID has never happened before. This is quite unique, and a lot of these booking systems don't know how to handle it. So obviously, a lot of the IT people will have their hands full trying to manage the new booking conundrums and booking problems. So how can we fix this? A total reconfiguration of booking algorithms and cancellation policies. And something important to think about is that for a long time, people have been worshiping AI, artificial intelligence, but now suddenly human financial consultants are starting to be in high demand because only they can seem to predict pricing and demand for airline bookings. So that's good news for any financial consultants. And booking systems can now be made COVID-proof so that they can work in harsher conditions, right? Now, looking at what has happened in very many countries, there are a lot of groups that are popping up like QAnon, who start to peddle misinformation, trying to confuse people with a lot of conspiracy theories. So this is really dangerous, especially people who are anti-vaccine. I will tell you now, in countries who are strongly anti-vaccine will have severely damaged domestic and international air travel numbers. If people don't believe in vaccines, despite the success of the polio vaccine, the success of the smallpox vaccine in the 1980s, if people are still anti-vaccine because they have conspiracy theories in their heads or any other ideas which are anti-vaccine, they will suffer, the airlines will suffer. So I hope that Sri Lanka is not one of those countries. I can't see anything good about anyone or any organization that is anti-vaccine, because vaccines are proven to be extremely vital in our fight against viruses. That must be fully understood. It is a scientific method which is tried and tested, right? So especially you young students, do not fall prey to conspiracy theories or fake news, right? Be very careful and please get vaccinated, right? Please be vaccinated. This is an interesting one, right? Aircraft purification, right? So not everyone is entirely sure whether it is safe to fly in an aircraft in terms of, is it clean? Is the air clean in an aircraft? Because not quite enough studies have been done to make the general aviation industry very confident. So more money needs to be invested into studying aircraft cabin air quality and air safety. The good and the bad. So this will, of course, discourage more paranoid passengers. I'm quite a paranoid passenger myself. I would be quite afraid to fly if I was not confident that the air was safe and virus-free. So more money needs to be invested into research into this sub-industry. But on the good side, further investment into research and testing of aircraft can benefit the airlines, because obviously if people feel safe about flying inside the aircraft and they have safety in the air purification systems, then of course there will be more flights and the airline industry can bounce back quicker. What else? Right, so that's a small picture, right, of cabin pressure testing and purification testing going on there. Right? So travel bubbles, right? I'm not sure if everyone has heard of these terms, travel bubbles or travel corridors. These are when two or more countries agree to the same health and safety standards. So travel bubbles only work. They only work when all countries have the exact same safety standards in order to create travel corridors or travel bubbles. If they do not have the same safety standards, they will fail. So it's important that countries start to agree, for example, fit to fly certificates, quarantine hotels, and COVID insurance, right? So a lack of travel bubbles will slow down the COVID recovery and also reduce passenger confidence. But on the good side, travel bubbles can be a huge boost if it increases passenger confidence and airline confidence as well. As Mr. Rene from Singapore Airlines mentioned earlier, business travel demand is much, much lower than leisure travel. So because of Skype and WebEx and Zoom, a lot of business travel has been canceled because for the simple reason it's just much less risky to travel as an employee right now. People who travel for leisure, of course, travel because they want to, not because they need to. For example, when I was stationed in Sri Lanka, I used to travel to the Philippines, Vietnam, and India to visit my students, to visit our to just use Zoom and platforms like this. But of course, the leisure travel industry is doing fine right now compared to the business travel demand. So the tourist aspect of travel will stay quite high. So there will be a huge loss for the business class sub-industry, and for B2B clients, it's much safer for businesses to require their employees and directors to use Zoom, Skype, and WebEx, right? And also it will save a lot of costs, right? Currently, global air cargo is down and prices are up for global air cargo. Passenger planes are now being used as cargo aircraft to make revenue due to lost passenger travel. For example, there's a new route which goes from Guam Islands in the Pacific Sea to Singapore. And currently Guam Islands are being used as a cargo hub, which is a new development. So it's nice to see that the airlines are finding innovative ideas to overcome the issues that we're having right now. And it's good to see innovation occurring, right? So restructuring of business models, right? And extremely efficient use of airports and aircrafts. And my last statement, young students, are that currently all predictions about a post-COVID recovery are still being debated. The aviation industry is still super uncertain. The uncertainty in the aviation industry is destroying thousands of jobs, yes. But on the good side, this is a good time to make the aviation industry COVID-proof and disaster-proof. So this is a good time to rebuild the aviation industry and make it much more resilient and robust. So do not be worried, young students. This is a time to rebuild aviation to make it much stronger. Now, on another note, I'm just going to leave with this little bit of information. In other news, Mitsubishi Aircraft Corporation now has acquired Bombardier CRJ series, right? So Bombardier has now sold 2 of their series, one to Airbus and now one to Mitsubishi. That's on other news. And finally, just a quick chat about Lanka Pacific Aviation and Engineering. We are a technician training school, an ASA exam center, and we will also be handling internships to Vietnam Airlines, Singapore Airlines. Once you finish our courses, our students usually end up with internships at Vietnam Airlines and Singapore Airlines, our very close partners. And we also help everyone with their license applications to get their aircraft technician licenses. We are an ASA exam center, and I am an exam invigilator. Just a quick word about our partners. These are some of our industrial partners with whom we have teamed up, and our academic partners, for example, University of South Wales, and our main partner, of course, being the one and only Aircraft Maintenance College 66 of the Netherlands. They allow us to be an ASA college. We are very proud to be affiliated with them. And you saw Mr. Rene Benzon from Singapore Airlines Engineering. And you'll be hopefully chatting to Mr. Kesher, who is currently stationed at VACO Vietnam Airlines. On that note, thank you very much for having me, DS College. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you all once all this COVID nonsense is over. And please take care, keep your passion strong, and keep safe. Thank you, and have a great day. And here are a few pictures of our students graduating. That's Mr. Rene Benzon, the graduation ceremony. Thank you. And have a great day.
Thank you, sir. So I would now like to invite Mr. Karan Mehrotra from LPAE branch in India to share a few words with us.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and good evening to those in other time zones. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me these few moments to share my views regarding the post-COVID-19 aviation industry. As we have seen from the last few days and weeks, the global travel numbers have greatly increased. This can be attributed to the countless safety measures taken by the authorities, but very soon will be attributed to due to the availability of the COVID-19 vaccine, which is already being started in many countries such as the United Arab Emirates, the United States, and the UK. This is very good news for anyone concerned with the aviation industry because it means that the airlines as well as the MROs will start to pick up the pace very soon. I'm sure everyone will agree with me when I say that this is a fantastic time for those considering to become aircraft maintenance engineers to start their studies in view of the massive requirement for engineers ahead. That is when we, as a company, Lanka Pacific Aviation and Engineering, come into the picture. Through the vision of our founders and management, we have developed a unique program and method for individuals to become licensed aircraft maintenance engineers. We provide training to our students as well as conduct their examinations, and we also allocate them for training with our on job training partners such as Vietnam Airlines Engineering and Singapore Airlines Engineering in the Philippines. We also offer students the opportunity to complete their type rating and also assist them with their license applications. Having been exposed to multiple aviation schools in the Middle East, Asia, and especially in Dubai, I have found that Lanka Pacific Aviation and Engineering is one of the forerunners in terms of aviation training, thanks to our management and partners. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. And finally, please welcome the LPA alumni, Mr. Keshava Vikramasinghe, who is working at Vietnam Engineering Corporation in Vietnam. Sir, please share your life experience with us.
Hello. Hello. Okay. I'm a student of Lanka Pacific, and currently I'm working on WICO. So, good morning, everyone. And I want to thank for LPA and Aeronautical Society of DSA Nanayaka to give me the chance. Okay, so let me introduce what is WICO. WICO is established in 1975 and it was in A76 Aircraft Maintenance Center. And then in 2009, January 1st, they will become the Vietnam Airlines Technical Department. And 2017, they got the YASA 145 approval. And then they will provide the base maintenance and line maintenance and also tools and material supply and cabin maintenance and also technical training. So about my career, I started my career in LPA in 2015. As a new student, at that time I never know anything about the aviation, and when I come to LPA, I did my YASA modules, 17 modules through the LPA, and then I went to STPI for my practical training in Indonesia. and that was really good. I did my module 17, module 15, and module 11, and also module 7. That I want to tell is really good, and they give good chances for me. And also about then I have a chance to come to WICO through the LPA. Then I started my on-the-job training in WICO, on-the-job training in WICO from 2018. Initially, then in the WICO, they divided into sections like 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 1 to 8. And in the beginning, I started from 3, 4. It means engines and APU in this section, and it's really good. And then I moved to 1 to 8 zone, and about the cabin and about the belly area. It was really nice. And then I moved to 5, 6, 7. It means wings and wings in this area. So about the WICO on the job training, I want to tell they give really good experience for me. Example, in the initial days, they keep us like assist. Then after that, they will give us the jobs for me, and it's really they give a good hand-on experience for me. And also, I want to tell in the WICO, they got more than 100 fleets, and especially on Airbus and Boeing. So now I'm working in the Hanoi Center, and Hanoi Base Maintenance Center. In Hanoi Base Maintenance Center, they are maintaining only Airbus aircraft, and in the Ho Chi Minh, they are maintaining Boeing aircraft. So I want to tell about the experience. They give me especially on A320, A321, and A319, and now they brought A320 family Neo. So it's really good, and they give a good experience for us about this aircraft. And also about the engine, they give the engine experience like V2500, CFM56, and the LEAP, the new engine for the Neo aircraft. And also in WICO Hanoi Center, they have A350. So sometimes they took us to give the experience for the A350 also. So sometimes I work with A350 Trent XWB engine also. So it's really amazing. So I can share some of photos for you. Okay, this is my photos. Just wait a minute. I will share my photos. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, these are my photos. This is about a Trent XWB A350 engine, and these are my colleagues, and they are working with APU. And also these are my logbooks. I want to tell, especially when I come to WICO, they assist our every work, and they told us to enter my logbooks, and some B1 engineer in WICO, they will give us the sign for us, and they have some work orders and the dates, and this is the aircraft number. And this is some A350 AMM number. And also these are my colleagues, and they give about the engine V2500. And this is about the landing gear. And yeah, this is the training director of in WICO Training Center, Mr. Tan. So he gave us the good support for us. And Oh, wait, I think you can't see my pictures. Just wait. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, right. All right, this is the pictures. This is XWB Trent engine for in Vico. This engine is used for A350, and this is my logbooks. Yeah, wait, I will show my logbook. Yeah, this is my logbook. For each and every logbook, in my logbook, each and every task, they told us to enter the task, and then they will sign from one of the B1 engineer in Vico. Okay, wait. All right, I think you can't see. Okay, just wait. Okay, I will share my story. I think you cannot see this one. Okay, all right. I think, can you see my pictures now? Okay, right. So this is these two are my colleagues. They work with me, and they are working with APU, and this is my logbook. I want to tell this is the task, and this is the number, and this is the date, and this is the sign of a B1 engineer in Vico. And this is my colleagues. They are working on V2500 engine in Vico, and I want to tell a big thing, because they have 100 fleets aircraft in Vico, and they have 100 fleets in Vico, and they have their own aircraft. So they will give anything to do for us. So that's the big advantage for us. And this is in landing gear. This is the lecturer of us, and they teach us how is open and how is the maintenance action over there. And this is the training director of Vico, and he's Mr. Tan, and he gave a good experience for us, and he really helped us to do our maintenance tasks. And these one of my colleagues, they work with 500 engine, and yeah, this is the A350 aircraft. And this Nalinda, and this is Harsha and me. Three of us came from LPA to do our on-the-job training in Vico, and I want to tell we are really happy to work over there. And I want to thank for LPA, because they give a big opportunity for us. Yeah, this is the whole our batch came to Vico through the LPA, and yeah, this is a 350 5900 aircraft, and this is one of my lecturer. This is a B1 engineer, Mr. Hai. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that is my experience, and I want to tell for the newcomers from Sri Lanka, LPA is very good, and this is the most trusted aircraft engineering school in this is the most trusted school in Sri Lanka, and I started my career from LPA, and it's really good, and they give big opportunities for us. So for the newcomers, I will tell only one thing: don't be afraid. In this time, after this time, the aircraft industry will grow very good. So just join and do your aircraft engineering dream and make it successful. Okay, thank you for everyone, and thank you for the Aeronautical Society of DSN Anayaka for giving me the opportunity, and also LPA to give me this opportunity for me. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. So that was Mr. Dinesh Jinasena, Mr. Karan Merotra, and Mr. Keshara Vikramasinghe joining us today. Thank you, and we highly appreciate your commitment towards our event today. Therefore, I would now like to invite the guest of honor, Mr. Martin de Klerk, to address the gathering.
Good morning, everybody. I just had the wrong button. It's still quite early in Europe. I've been listening to some people in other parts of the world, Vietnam, Thailand. I missed the speaking from René. I've been to all those locations. I know the people there. I know Mr. Tan, who was introduced by Mr. Cash, the training manager from Vico, Vietnam Airlines. So it's interesting to see all those people and where they go around the world, because the aviation industry is about traveling. And although Dinesh was saying that he was not really secure about the air quality inside the cabin, I've been traveling again. I've been last week I was in South Africa, so from Europe to South Africa, that's a pretty long flight. So currently I'm feeling more safe already inside aircraft. Although we still have a pandemic going on, and to be honest, I'm quite fed up with it. And I think a lot of people are, so we want to move again. I prepared a small presentation, which I wanted to show you. Let's see if I can get that going, because I'm also not very comfortable with all the buttons. Share. I hope you can see my presentation now. If not, please have somebody send me a small message. I want to, hold on, how do I get rid of this? I want to tell you a little bit about the EASA, the European Standards System relating to aircraft mechanics. In Europe, all the member states, the European member states in Europe, have to comply with what we call the EASA regulations. And we as a school, as an organization, comply with those rules, legislations. And we are also allowed to work together with local partners, for example, in Sri Lanka with the LPAE, but also in Malaysia and in Dubai and other parts of the world, where we can use our approval to help local people to become aircraft mechanics according to European standards. How does it work in Europe? The red box is the big aircraft. The green box is the smaller general aviation aircraft. Basically, all large aircraft must be controlled, must be managed by what we call a continuing airworthiness management organization. They make sure that the aircraft receives all their maintenance inspections in time. Those have to comply with certain standards, and then the maintenance must be done by what we call a Part 145, a maintenance organization. And that's where Mr. Cash currently is, at the Vico, Vietnam, the maintenance company from Vietnam Airlines, where he's working as a person, a certifying staff inside the organization. And he, as a person, must be trained inside a training organization. And we are such a training organization being able to provide this kind of training for young mechanics. We comply with the European regulations standards. And Sri Lanka, as many countries in the southeast of Asia, are adopting, accepting, taking over the European legislations. So there's a lot of technical cooperation ongoing in which EASA, that's the European Aviation Safety Agency, works together with the authorities of Sri Lanka, but also the Maldives, of India, Vietnam, all those countries. They are aligning their structures in the regulations with Europe. And why is that important? Why is that so necessary? Because we live in one world, and if we have a kind of driving license, or a license, what we call it, an aircraft maintenance license for aircraft mechanics, they can work at a lot of locations all over the world. And I put an example here from somebody on LinkedIn who has a license. It was issued on the 4th of December this year. So very recent, only 2 weeks ago, he got his license. He got his license to operate, to be an aircraft maintenance technician, and to work he was actually working in Saudi Arabia. But with this European paper, you can work in almost all countries in Southeast Asia, because they all accept this paper. That makes it so valuable. And basically, it's becoming the world standards. So how does that work with this paper? How does this work with this aircraft maintenance license? Well, you first have to have the knowledge. The skills and the attitude, that's what we normally call the knowledge, skill, and attitude. That's what you need to become a good aircraft mechanic. You will get an empty, blank aircraft maintenance license. And what Mr. Cash was already talking about, he was learning how to work on a Airbus A320 and on the Airbus A350. Then he goes into a type training. That is, you really learn about, this is more generic. This is the basic training, and the basic knowledge is about learning how to become a mechanic, how to be that. And this is about specializing yourself in a certain aircraft type and being able to become what we call a certifying staff as an aircraft mechanic, which is really important, because then you can really make some money. The initial step, and you are still at the stage of the first initial step. How can you get this knowledge? And you can get this knowledge by doing examinations inside of Part 147. And LPA in Sri Lanka is approved is allowed to do those approved examinations. You can pass, you can gain your knowledge at LPA. They will prepare you for it, they will train you for that, and then at the end you can do your exams. And if you pass all the examinations, you are eligible to apply for an EASA Part 66, and that's the aircraft maintenance license in Europe. Why is that so important? Because if, for example, you want to work in Singapore, and if you work in Singapore with an EASA license, you can see that here actually, you only need to add the local rules to it. You must be trained on the local rules. If you have an American license from the FAA, that's the American equivalent for the EASA, you need all kinds of additional modules. So if you have European paperwork, you're almost accepted everywhere. The disadvantages is that Sri Lanka is a small country, a beautiful country, but it's an island, and basically you will always depend a little bit on aviation. But the paperwork issued by the government from Sri Lanka is not recognized everywhere as for aircraft mechanics, for aircraft technicians. So that's why the European paperwork is so important and so valuable. So because this European paperwork is so valuable, it's so important, I can do a lot of business in a lot of countries, and a lot of those countries are in Southeast Asia. And that's also what you've actually been hearing from René, from Dinesh, from Cash. The aviation industry is very global. You know, I'm traveling all over the world. I'm meeting so many interesting people, and I love it. But you have to accept that you're tired sometimes. You know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning here in Europe. It's very early. That's part of the job, and you have to be willing to take on that job, to become an aircraft technician. And that means working at night. That means working at your local holidays. If the aircraft has to go, you must be ready. And that is what is requested of us. COVID-19, Dinesh was already talking a little bit about that, has been hard on the industry. It has been quite devastating. Although people are using more Skype, Zoom, and WebEx and whatever Teams, the general idea is still that the industry will bounce back. And actually, I'm seeing that also with the people around me. We want to fly again. We want to travel again. We want to experience the world. And we will fly. I will keep flying. And a lot of people around me, especially in Europe, they cannot spend their money at this moment because they are not allowed to go anywhere. They really are desperate for holidays. So after this COVID crisis is over, people will travel again. Will it bounce back immediately to the same level? No, it will not. It will take 2 to 3 years before we are back at pre-COVID-19 situation. In Europe, the vaccination is already ongoing. I presume you will have to wait in Sri Lanka and in other parts of the world. That's the way it is. But Europe will be vaccinated by the summertime, and the travel will continue. The travel will pick up again, and the airplanes will fill up quickly again. So where is this traffic going to? I've taken a picture here from Boeing. It's indicating which travel routes are the most important in the world. At this moment, it's still in North America, flying from east to west coast in America, from LA to New York, this kind of flights. But if you actually look more closely, you see that Southeast Asia, but also China, is picking up dramatically. The passenger growth in your area is substantial. We will need young mechanics to work those airplanes, to keep them flying safely. And with European papers, you are in a very good position to flow around the world and do your thing and get to experience the world. So think about that, and LPA can help you with that. One last slide about Brexit. Sometimes we forget about Brexit, but in 2 weeks' time, it is finally that the UK will leave the European Union. Be careful. If the UK leaves the European Union, that also means that in the United Kingdom, the licenses issued by the United Kingdom Civil Aviation Authorities are no longer EASA papers and will no longer have the status of an EASA member state. So the UK will come up with a new document. It's called the UK CEA Part 66, but it's not accepted in Europe. So be careful with this. I know Sri Lanka has historical good ties with Great Britain, but be careful with the paperwork because it will not be accepted in Europe. Thank you all for listening, and stop sharing. You can see me again. I still want to wish you a good morning, and Lanka Pacific is a good place to kick off your career inside aviation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So that was Martin de Klerk. the Managing Director of Aircraft Maintenance College 66 at EASA. So the results are now analyzed and we have declared the finalists. Out of 25, only 2 extremely talented schools will showcase their wits in the champion spot and take home the challenge shield. So, who will these 2 schools be? Join us and find out where we will be going live at 2 p.m. on YouTube to showcase the finale. Don't forget to be a part of us and make sure to join. Thank you.